The endlessly repeated tale of Emmett Till, the not-so-innocent 14-year-old black boy who lived in 1955 for the crime of whistling at a white woman, is one of the most successful and destructive hoaxes in American history. It was never about a harmless whistle. It was a brutal sexual assault that triggered a predictable and justified response from the men whose wife and community had been violated. The entire narrative was deliberately weaponized to portray white America as monstrous, inflame racial division, and lay the foundation for civil rights revolution that has since dismantled every traditional safeguard of the nation. According to facts suppressed for 70 years, Emmett Till sexually assaulted Carolyn Bryant inside her family's store in Money, Mississippi. He grabbed her, propositioned her with crude language, and physically forced himself on her. Carolyn Bryant did not immediately run to her husband Roy Bryant and his half-brother J.W. Millam, demanding blood. Instead, she tried to protect the boy from the consequences of his own actions. She begged him to leave him alone. It was only after a black man from the area identified Till as the perpetrator that the two men went to retrieve him from his great-uncle's house. Emmett Till was captured when Roy Bryant and J.W. Millam, accompanied by a black man who identified him, drove to Mose Wright's house in the middle of the night. The men intended only to scare the boy severely and teach him a lesson for what he had done to Carolyn Bryant, not to kill him. According to accounts suppressed for decades, Till refused to show remorse. Instead, he continued to egg them on with profanity, threats, and defiant boasts, claiming he had assaulted other white women before, including asserting that it already had their wife and others like her. This escalating verbal aggression and lack of submission turned a planned intimidation into the fatal beating that followed. Emmett Till was not even lynched by hanging. He was rounded up, beaten, shot once in the head with a pistol, the cause of death. Then his body was weighted with a cotton gin fan and wire around the neck and thrown into the Tallahatchie River to hide the crime. The event is labeled a lynching because it fits the broader historical pattern of purported extrajudicial supposed terror by white perpetrators enforcing Jim Crow norms, even without a noose or tree suspension. This classification has driven modern legislation, including the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, signed March 29, 2022, which makes lynching a federal hate crime, even though murder by any method is already a crime, and despite the case involving no hanging. The mainstream lie insists Till was a cherubic child who did nothing more than wolf whistle. That lie collapses the moment the actual testimony and later admissions are examined. Carolyn Bryant's original account described a full physical assault. Decades later, she stood by the core of that story, even while under pressure to recant. The whistling detail was a sanitized, media-friendly version pushed to turn a predator into a martyr. This was not Till's first brush with trouble, as he was a known juvenile delinquent. His own father, Louis Till, had been executed by the U.S. Army in 1945 for the rape and murder of 2 Italian women during World War II. Like father, like son, the apple did not fall far from the tree. The so-called lynching of Emmett Till became the perfect propaganda weapon precisely because the truth was more complex and could be obscured. Civil rights activists, the NAACP, and the national press buried the sexual assault, amplified the whistling fable, and transformed a violent criminal act into proof that America's white population was irredeemably evil. That single fabricated story justified every subsequent demand for integration, affirmative action, reparations rhetoric, and the slow-motion destruction of white neighborhoods, schools, and culture. Today, the hoax is taught as gospel in every public school. Statues, museums, and an entire federal holiday-adjacent cult of remembrance exist to keep the lie alive. Any attempt to tell the truth is denounced as hate, but the facts remain unchanged. Emmett Till was not an innocent child. He was a sexual assailant whose death was a direct and foreseeable result of his own criminal behavior. Carolyn Bryant was the real victim, who was then vilified for the rest of her life for daring to tell what happened. The Emmett Till myth is not history. It's a vile anti-white blood libel masquerading as sanctimonious moral indoctrination, peddled relentlessly by black activists and their enablers to vilify and dismantle white America. This grotesque fabrication is another example of inflicted catastrophic damage on the nation, like so many other 20th century lies perpetrated by the blacks, eroding society through fabricated guilt, civil division, and the obliteration of truth. Black history didn't happen like they say it did.
Free socks.